Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with today's guest, but as always, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, these are all companies that I used as an AD. I think they're great companies. I highly recommend that you use them. So take 3 minutes, listen to the shout outs, then listen to our interview, then go and visit these companies if you're not already using them. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to Huddle for their support of the podcast. You've heard me say before, as a football coach, I used Huddle for years and it was just great. But when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school and our coaches, all of our coaches, just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our student athletes loved the videos, our parents loved the streaming, but there is so much more. Go to huddle.com. Join the 8 million users and turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thanks to our friends at Gipper. Your students are on social media, so are a lot of their parents. And if they're not seeing content that celebrates their accomplishments and promotes your program, you're missing out on a great opportunity. Go to Gipper.com. Their team will have you creating world-class content in seconds, and it's so easy, even I can do it. That's Gipper.com. Make sure you mention the podcast, Gipper.com. We want to say thanks to Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every single day, whether it's scheduling, rosters, results, communication. Their athletic eligibility and clearance platform alone is worth the price. To get started, just go to homecampus.com. That's it. Mention the podcast. That's homecampus.com. We want to say thanks to our friends at Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Now, I didn't get my master's from Ohio, but my assistant athletic director did, along with thousands of others. And it was a great experience, very affordable, just 20 months, totally online. And while you're earning your master's degree, you're also earning 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. To get started, just go to ohio.edu/info/MAA, the Ohio University Online Masters. We'd like to thank SnapRaise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and been disappointed in the results? Well, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with great success. Our coaches loved it. Our parents loved it because it works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it. Go to snapraise.com. We want to say thank you to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all their events, or show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and take a look at their interactive touchscreen video consoles. It's also a great way to share your school's unique history and brag about your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. Make sure you mention the podcast. We want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their score boards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com for more information. We want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing. Hometown's the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more. But if you're looking for more support, more security, or more customization, the Hometown team is here to help you make the best online ticketing solution. As always, mention the podcast. It's hometownticketing.com. And we want to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. At my school, we use surveys for everything: kids, coaches, teachers, and parents. And the information that would come back was almost always over the top positive, but it also included those squeaky wheels and allowed us to address minor things and keep them from turning into a big deal. Your school is going to be the same way, but having all of that positive data is incredibly important, especially when you're meeting with that frustrated parent so you can tell them how things really are. Um, or maybe you're meeting with your principal, or maybe you're having to meet with your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to the great state of Illinois today, and we're going to be visiting with Orlandus Thomas. Orlandus is a certified athletic administrator. He's also a registered middle school athletic administrator, and he's even a registered international athletic administrator. He's the director of athletics at the Intrinsic Charter High School, and that's the downtown campus in Chicago, home of the Ravens. Orlandus Thomas, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
Wow, Jake, thank you for having me on here. Welcoming to the listening audience and to our ADs because we know we're so busy, but to take the time to share best practices and resources. Just thank you for having me on. So just thank you so much.
Oh, no, absolutely. And it is a busy time for our listeners. We're recording this on October 9th, so it'll be pretty timely when you're listening to it. Orlandus, we always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us that quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up. We're going to talk about your career later. So maybe take us up through your own high school and college days. What's the Orlandus Thomas origin story?
Whew, yes, we'll do the 25-cent version of this. So Orlandus Thomas, as you can see, call me Coach OT, born in the South, Ruleville, Mississippi. For those that don't know where Ruleville is, if you know Drew, which is right next door, it's the birthplace of Archie Manning and also the birthplace of the Blues. So born there March 3rd, 1976. Parents who have twin brothers, Orlando and Orlandus. Moved to Chicago when I was 4 or 5 years old and stayed on the south side of Chicago, then further moved out to the south suburbs. Grew up in the south suburban area, graduated from Crete-Boney High School, 94, just did my 30th reunion this year. Went to Millikan University. I started there in Decatur, Illinois, Central Illinois. That's where I did various sports and activities and things like that. My sports mainly were cross country and track. Those were my babies, a little basketball mixed in there as well. Ended up graduating from Chicago State in physical education. So started my career as a physical education teacher, which I still am. Have coached a series of sports. So, but we'll get into that in career-wise, but just know that sports is just very integral, key part of my life. So have traveled and done a lot of different things, but we'll get into that career-wise. So.
Yeah, I want to go back to, even before high school, either, Mississippi or, Chicago. What was it like for you? Was it small town? Was it suburbs? Was it driveway basketball and backyard football? What are some of those memories?
Yeah, so very small town atmosphere. So I've always been in that. Ruleville, Mississippi is literally my recollections from their dirt driveway with the silo with the creek in the back, right? Like very, very country rural. So understand the reason why my parents moved us to Chicago, like most people from the South did. Stayed in the South Side for the first couple of years till I was kindergarten, first grade. Then South Suburbs, which is around Sauk Village, which pretty much was a reminder of like that suburban, rural type area. So just close-knit friends, very close family knit, very close friends knit. So just had a great group of educators and just people around me and friends that I'm still with till this day. So that's basically what I've known and been exposed to everything, all type of cultures, races, diversities, everything. So was very fortunate to be diverse in that manner.
Quick question. I'll get it out. White Sox or Cubs?
Die hard White Sox guy. White Sox
I was gonna say you mentioned South Side, so I figured that so much. Yeah.
So my wife is a Cubby, but we make it work. It'll be 22 years on Friday. We've made it work. So the reason somebody just asked me why are you a White Sox guy? So first grade, I grew up, and you and I grew up in an era where if you got straight A's or perfect attendance, you got the little certificate to go to the baseball game. For me, that was to go to the White Sox, to Comiskey Park. From that day forward, as a first grader, I've been diehard White Sox fan, like literally. So we celebrated when they won in 2005. My wife had her moment when the Cubs won, but even in my household, as my kids got older, they know it's White Sox Nation. When they go over to grandparents' house, because they were Cubbies, we kept a couple blue shirts in the closet, but for the majority in our house, it's White Sox Nation. So,
All right, I love it. Okay. Um, I'm big on moments, and you talked about, growing up, you talked about coaches, et cetera. We all have various reasons for choosing this path as an AD. Can you think back to a moment, maybe as when you're a kid or high school or even later? Can you think to a moment that at the time it really didn't seem like much, but now looking back with wisdom and perspective, you can point to that moment and say, hey, that was significant for me. Anything come to
oh,
mind?
oh, trust me, absolutely. I know I could tell you the moment that I knew I was going to be in athletics and coached. And so when I was in elementary school, I had a phenomenal PE teacher, Dawn Flo St. Pelletier. And she was a person who, before she came to school, she ran and swam so many miles. She was a triathlete. Had her all through elementary school for PE. She realized, like, when we went in the backfield to do recess or whatever, there's this kid that just loves running. Like, he just runs for days for days. Most kids want to be sprinters and things like that. I literally was like the Black Forrest Gump. I just love to run, right? So ironically, her brother and sister-in-law at the junior high I went to were the track coaches. So by fourth grade, she had already called up to the junior high. I got this kid that's going to be a track guy, but he's not a sprinter. He just loves to run. Came up there, her brother and sister-in-law, Bob Heenan, became my first track coach, right? And my love for running just started there. And, just for 8 years of my career, I had them as PE, health teacher, and track. Long story short, he passed about 7, 8 years ago, Bob Heenan, like, God bless his soul. He followed me religiously throughout my career. And to this day, I've been the person that their family has been more influenced by anybody else. And I told him, I literally patterned your family. Like, I literally became a PE and a health teacher because of you all. I became a track cross country person because of you all. Like, everything that I know of sports became of your family and what was immediately embedded in me from your family. So I would never be who I am without you. So I would say I knew in elementary school that fitness and sport was going to be something, but Bob and Joe Heenan planted the bug of athletics. And I didn't know athletics, but I just knew it was going to be something that become the fiber of who I am and the impact and influence they had on my life. So that's what I pull from as an AD every day.
Wow, what a great story. Thanks for sharing that. And again, I just love to hear those backstories of how we become the people that we become and continue to become. For our listeners, our guest today is Orlandus Thomas. He's the director of athletics at the Intrinsic Charter School in Chicago. We're going to take our first break, but we are going to come back with more. So please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Huddle for their support of the podcast. As a high school football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our student athletes loved the videos, and our parents loved the streaming, but there is so much more. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, and turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to thank our friends at Gipper. Your students are on social media, so are a lot of their parents. And if they're not seeing content that celebrates their accomplishments and promotes your program, you're missing out on a great opportunity. Go to Gipper.com. Their team will have you creating world-class content in seconds, and it's so easy, even I can do it. Go to Gipper.com, mention the podcast, they'll give you a nice discount. That's Gipper.com.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, Jake, I was just looking at your sponsor and I saw that you use Gipper, and that is one of our key places that we use for social media. And I'm glad to see that they're partnered with you.
Well, guys, thanks for saying that. Now, I am a lot older than you, and I talk about how easy it is for an old guy like me to use Gipper. Now, you're young and you're Mr. Technology. How easy is Gipper to use as an AD?
Oh my goodness, you can do Gipper right off your phone and have it like live action and be able to put those live moments with the students and what's going on in athletic programs and going on right there. So just have it right there on your phone. Like I said, get that footage, get that instant message out there for those kids to see, because they're on their phones looking for it as soon as that game's done. So keep that Gipper on your phone so you have it, right? So.
And again, you're absolutely right. The kids, they're looking for that stuff. I would get, hey, Coach Jake, did you post that yet? Or, am I going to see that tomorrow? So thanks again.
Absolutely.
For our listeners, our guest today is Orlandus Thomas. He's the athletic director at Intrinsic Charter School, the downtown campus in Chicago. Orlandus, you kind of took us up through your high school and college days. I always like to hear about the journey that we take. Share with our listeners some of those early post-college jobs that led you to your current position at Intrinsic.
Whew. Yeah, post-college jobs. So I was very fortunate to start my coaching career actually in the district of my middle school, Creek Middle School. Started back, and the thing is, I walked into coaching by accident, right? Where older teacher that had been there, he decided to step down from basketball, and it's like, hey, you're going to take over the basketball program, and I'm like, I wasn't planning on coaching till about 8 more years from now. It's like, no, you're going to take over it right now. So kind of walked into coaching in 2000, 2001 and took over my first team as a 7th and 8th grade basketball coach. And then I started their track program. So from there, went into my alma mater, Creek Monique. And I started I was a football coach, which was a freshman defense coordinator, basketball and track has always been my dominant sports that I've always coached. Like freshman boys, sophomore boys. At track, at Creed, I did the varsity assistant. Did that all the way up until about 2006, where that's when I left the suburbs to go to the city to start coaching. And I was a varsity assistant at Lincoln Park High School, and we had a very successful basketball program. We had a top 3 in the state, top 65 in the country. So I got exposure to what it was like to coach at that level. And then from there, I've been a head coach for basketball at Noble Street for charters. I've coached volleyball, which is my first girls team that I ever coached, and enjoyed doing that. Then I left there and started Gary Comer College Preps, basketball and softball and girls basketball programs and their cross country and track. Did 2 years of college coaching at Illinois Tech, brought their men's basketball program back where I was an associate head coach. Was an AD the first time at Legal Prep, charter on the West Side, and I built their programs from scratch. Came back to Comer and did cross country and track. Went to the Catholic League and did St. Lawrence's cross country and track team. And then that took me to here, where I built a program from scratch, an athletics program from scratch. And I still reside as the girls flag football coach, which I started, and the track coach. So still heavily involved in coaching, still as the AD.
Now, coaching right out of the chute, I think a lot of us did it, but I always think of that expression, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
As that young, rookie coach, what were some things that you found out that you didn't know?
Oh my goodness. I think hindsight now, which is what I use to teach and mentor with my coaches now, is a lot of coaches come like you said, right out the chute. They think of it as just the skill of their sport. Like it's just, I'm the best soccer person. I'm the best this or whatever. And I did these drills and I did this. I think the thing for me to learn out the gate was the managerial side of coaching. Like, what are the compliance things? What are the responsibilities? What are the things that, like, just the managing part of coaching? And that was just all fresh to do with me. And I was like, I think at that point, I was so wrapped up in the skill and like trying to be like just buddy friends with them where I wasn't at the point where it was a parent that told me once, like, I know that you want to be, have that relationship with them, and that's great, but you also have to have that accountability piece with them, and they'll respect you far more if you can balance both of them. And that was the best piece of advice that I received as a young coach. I also learned that when I was a middle school coach, honestly, and I'm not going to lie, it was wins and losses. I walked into programs where I was winning, and get to high school, and I was a freshman basketball coach, and that's when I learned the hard way. Your best players you may not see because they go to JV and varsity. And then that was my first year as a freshman head coach, 1-19. Immediately flipped the mindset from wins and losses, relationship with my players, developing players, relationship with players. And gradually I saw the wins and losses came, but I saw how the dynamics changed with my athletes. So I think going into it of saying just understanding the managerial parts, like everything that entails being a coach, and then just having a good athletic director or program and systems that can really mentor you through that.
Now, we're going to talk about your current position as an AD, and I understand you're still coaching track and cross
Mhm.
country, but have you noticed a change in yourself from your coaching days to your AD days now in how you, let's say, respond, relate, work with parents in your athletic program?
Oh, absolutely. Like, absolutely. Like, when I say that, it's how you mean when I respond to like how to parents and things, like you see it from a different lens. But I am the parent of an athlete, like, and all my kids there. So I keep all of that in mind where I'm either sitting in the stands and I'm listening to how parents are. And then I also educate my coaches on how to help parents understand that I have the best interest for your child, and these are the things that are there to support your child. And because we know parents can have different distorted mindsets when it comes to athletics, like distorting the mindset of like they have to be on athletics because it has to lead to a scholarship or it has to do this, and dispelling and helping parents understand that the root of it is you focus on the experience that they have, whether they do or don't go to beyond college. I tell my program and my parents all the time, my daughter, two-sport athlete, can, if she wanted to, could go to college to be recruited in both. She chooses not to be. And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm totally okay with that and at peace with that with her, because I wanted to make sure, even if she doesn't pursue it beyond high school, that her high school experience is what she remembers. Like, and focusing on that, because 97, 98% of our kids that do athletics is going to be the high school experience. So putting our energies into that, it's only that 1 or 2% that make it to do it at the college level. So not equating that high school athletics or athletics in general has to equate to a collegiate scholarship, because there's too many more values that come out of those life lessons that transcend beyond going to college for athletics. So, and you can carry that over into multiple careers and multiple assets of success for life.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I've said this on a couple other interviews. It annoys me a little bit when I'll hear a coach, usually a coach, but sometimes an AD, they'll talk about, well, we've got to prepare these kids for college, as a college athlete. And I'm going, well, actually, no, we don't. Okay. They're prepared. They're going to be okay. The ones that are going to college, we need to make sure we're not sacrificing that 96, 97% their high school experience, which is
Yep.
going to be it, just for the sake of these great kids. And I've sent a number of kids on to college. I'm sure you have too, but
Yep.
let's remember why we're here. Very cool stuff.
Yep. The part about, I didn't mean to cut you off. The part about it is if you're a purist of understanding the true philosophy of education-based athletics, it is teaching them life skills. It's no different than like what a vocational place does. No different than like any other curricular. The purest person, the purest that understands education-based athletics, you're teaching them, you're coaching them for life. You're not coaching them for college. You're coaching them for life, so that no matter what they do beyond high school, you're setting up to be success no matter what field they're in.
Oh, absolutely. Boy, I love to hear that. Great, great stuff. We're going to take another quick break, but we're coming back one more time. Our guest is Orlandus Thomas. He's a certified athletic administrator and much more. Let's take that break. But this is the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back. We'd like to thank Home Campus for their support. You've heard me say before, Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every single day, whether it's scheduling, rosters, results, communication. Their student athlete eligibility and clearance platform alone is worth the price. To get started, just go to homecampus.com. That's it. Mention you heard about it on the podcast. Homecampus.com. We'd like to thank Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Now, I didn't get my master's from Ohio University, but my assistant athletic director did, and it was a great experience, along with thousands of others. It's completely online, very affordable, just 20 months. And while you're completing your master's degree, you're also completing 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. To get started, go to ohio.edu/info/MAA, the Ohio University Online Masters. We also want to say thanks to our good friends at Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and been disappointed in the results? Well, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at my school with great success. Our coaches loved it. Our parents loved it because it works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out all of their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it. Go to snapraise.com.
Jake, I love listening to these commercials and seeing all the people that we use. So shout out to my people at Snap, to Kim and Morgan and Tracy for everything they're doing. Like I said, they are definitely connected with who our downtown campus is and are the basis and foundation for what we do. So shout out to Snap Mobile and Snap Raise for being partnered with Mr. Jake Vice Chair.
Oh, well, again, we appreciate you saying that. And having been an AD for many, many years, I've seen a lot of platforms out there, and I can tell you from the athletic director's perspective, Snap was so great. They they came in, they explained it, they followed up, the money rolled in, and it was just so easy. And again, our coaches and our parents loved it. So thanks for sharing that. Um, Once again, for our listeners, our guest today is Orlandus Thomas, and he's the director of athletics at Intrinsic Charter School in Chicago. Orlandus, share with our listeners how you ended up at Intrinsic, what I like to say, coming over to the other side of the desk, and share some things about your program that you're particularly proud of.
Whew, I love this part because our story is truly unique. And I explained this before early in the year. So the way that I was in another charter school as a PE teacher, and I was coaching elsewhere. And just to give a backstory, Intrinsic's downtown campus has only been open since 2019, 2020. So fairly new school, right? And that first year that they founded, they didn't have an athletic director. They didn't do anything with it at all. So the principal, who was at the time here, she and I had built another school together, because you'll find out my career is basically on being Bob the Builder, so building places. So She knew that when she wanted to have an athletics program built, she reached out to me because she saw what I had did with athletics as a coach at Gary Coleman College Prep. So as I came over, I came during year 2 when the pandemic hit. So it was like, okay, I have all these fresh ideas, but now I hate to say this, but it was actually a blessing in disguise because that really allowed me to step back and really say, how do you want an athletics program to come together? Like, now I'll say this too, 97, 98% of ADs don't get the opportunity to build something from scratch. Like that's huge. And that's like a unique experience that you can, and I pulled from every experience that I had. Like I said before, coached in the suburbs, coached in the city, coached in private, coached in charter, coached in Catholic League, coached at college. Like, how can you melt and fuse this all together to put together an experience? So I spent that whole pandemic year writing the handbook, writing the coach's handbook, like putting all the pieces together and finding the conference that we're in. So we've gone from having nothing to, oh my goodness, I don't know how many, like close to 20 some teams and programs right now. And we keep adding more. We added dance this year. Our esports has grown. Girls flag is taking off now. We've had some fortunes where we had a couple of players that have gone off to college in our last several years now. We're seeing just the growth of our teams in our conference and kids and engagement and student engagement in our campus. And I think the biggest thing that I'm really proud of right now is watching kids starting to really have some pride in this place that is downtown Chicago. People, and they're like, we're literally downtown Chicago. Like, we have no fields, we have no this. Like, how can a place on Monroe and Clark do all these amazing things and have these experiences? And I think for me as the AD, having all those experiences, my biggest thing that I champion advocate is my kids play everywhere. They play all kinds of kids. They play all kinds of areas. They don't just stay to the city. We've gone to the suburbs. We've gone rural. I want them to experience everything related to like what you would in college. So for them to have that type of diversity and then have someone that is like we say, a player's coach. I'm a coach's AD. I'm an athlete's AD. Like, I hear them loud and clear, and they have a champion that advocates for them. So I've just been very blessed and fortunate to be in a great situation to do some amazing things that, as of this year, was actually accumulated and recognized throughout the state for 1A and 2A schools, where it accumulated into our program and myself being the athletic director of the year for 1A and 2A schools. So that's just a reflection of my students, my coaches, my community, and the people that we serve, right? So to have this little school that is downtown, as I said earlier, the little engine that's intrinsic that could, right? So we're just continuing to do amazing things. So
Boy, that is just so cool. And you're right. Starting a program is a unique experience. And I was fortunate enough to be able to do that twice. Um,
welcome to the 2%.
yeah. Um, as you as you were putting your program together, we talk about the importance of traditions.
Mhm.
What were some things that you intentionally did? Maybe not the first year, but maybe that you looked at the time. This is going to be a tradition at our school 5, 10, 20, 50 years down the road. Anything come to mind?
Um, well, a couple of things. I know we finally this year finally got our mascot stuff together. So we have our Rocky, the mascot, at all our games and everything. We've made it a tradition to with our cross campus, our Belmont campus, we'll either do our cross rival games. Sometimes we'll do it as a senior night. For basketball, I do every year we do an intrinsic day of hoops where we just have they just all day they play each other and we do like the trophy passing, between the two. This past Saturday we did dual senior days for flag football and for soccer, but for the first time, we honored Hispanic Heritage Month, where in between the games, we had an hour of time where we brought thanks, and this was all led by our students, which I loved. Like they wanted, we got a mariachi band, which one of the kids played in. We had face painting, so it was just a great experience for the kids. And like I said, just I like the fact that it's a collaboration with not just myself instilling traditions, but having kids saying, what are things that we want to do to make them traditions? So, because when it's all said and done, this is their experience, right? When I talk to eighth graders that come to open house, I said, you need to find a school that you can own, where you can have your voice be heard, student voice. And it's when you leave it, you left your legacy, your impact on there. So I look for that out of my students. Like, what are things you want to incorporate into our athletic program that when you come back 5 and 10 years down the road, you say, you know what? That's what I started. That's my legacy in that school. So, yeah, like this is truly a holistic approach where there is a collaboration with my student athletes and just even students in general that aren't athletes. So, literally, just had one of my students approach me with a proposal about putting together a student media, sports media management where kids run everything. Like he's like, we need this equipment for the sound boom. He had me mic'd up during flag, had my player mic'd up during flag. He's like, we want to do streaming, we want to do game management, we want to be the announcers. And like, that's what I want, because that's their investment into it. That says something has been said about what's already I've created with the experience of athletics, to where now they're like, we want a piece of this where we know this is ours. And I'm like, it's all yours. And I'm definitely a listening ear to make this happen for you. So.
Yeah, and that's something that I share with schools and ADs and coaches a lot. We were fortunate at the schools I was at. We were able to cultivate student public address announcers, and
Yeah.
they were wonderful. They were, I dare say, some of the best I've ever been around. And the three in particular went on to do the same thing at the college level. One guy, I think we're probably going to see him on ESPN soon. But to your point, the social media and the sound and everything, everybody who's listening right now, you have students at your school. Some of them, they might be on teams. Some of them might just be sports geeks. And I say that in a very positive way, that don't do sports, but they just love sports. And they can do that for your program. They can turn your presentations into that ESPN experience and take stuff off of your plate. So you're recognizing your students and teams, like we talk about with Gipper, but the students are doing it. Certainly there's oversight, but
Mhm.
it's a great opportunity that I just think goes untapped way too often.
Right. And the biggest thing for that is, and this has been always my other push with athletics. I want to use athletics to show kids careers and opportunities in sports that are not necessarily an athlete. Like I give them the stats all the time. I said, even if you happen to crack into that 1 or 2% in college, and even if you happen to crack into that 1 or 2% as a pro, the stats show, excuse me, that the stability and the life expectancy of an athlete is between 3 to 4 years, right? Why not teach them careers that prolong them and play the long game? And I tell kids all the time, why do you think? I said, this is why I became an AD. Like, I love sports so much that I never wanted to leave what is my comfort zone, no matter what capacity it is. That's why I became an official. That's why I have, like, just like you, 50 billion certifications that I can't remember what they all are, right? So is that because I love everything that entails sport and how it's impacted my life. So I wanted to make sure I was surrounded by what I love, that it doesn't even feel like a job. And that's what I want them to experience. Like, what is it about sport that just makes you wake up at every day and say, this is awesome, right? Like, what is it that like really stirs you around this atmosphere, the power of sport? You can even tell that during the pandemic. Like when that happened, the one thing that was the draw or the missing piece was sport. So something about that we just had to draw to it. So there's just a really powerful platform that we have as athletic directors to really transform lives way more than just not just on the court or the field, right? And we can truly reach kids in multiple ways that I believe if ADs truly tap into, oh my goodness, because we're really the heartbeat of a school and we just haven't tapped to reach enough hearts through that. Yeah.
Right. No, I love the enthusiasm, and to your point, this isn't a job that we have to do. This is a job that we get to do. You know, we get
Yes.
to be an athletic director. So I think some of our student athletes eventually see that. We're going to go ahead and take another break. I know that's shocking to our regular listeners, but we are going to come back with some more best practices from our guest, Orlandus Thomas. He's the director of athletics at Intrinsic Charter School in Chicago. So let's take that break. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the events, or show off your school's Hall of Fame, you need to go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and take a look at their interactive touchscreen video consoles. It's also a great way to share your school's unique history and brag about your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. Make sure you mention the podcast, vitalsignswalloffame.com. We want to thank Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. You can schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their score boards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. We use it for home games, of course, but we also use it for pep rallies, for signing ceremonies. It's tremendously versatile, and their customer service is just outstanding. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that live web demo today. And we want to thank our friends at Hometown Ticketing. Hometown's the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. And whether it's more support, more security, or more customization, the Hometown team is here to help you make the best online ticketing solution. Mention the podcast, they'll give you a nice discount. Hometown Ticketing, it's digital ticketing that offers more.
Jake, so watching your plugs, gotta shout out my people at Hometown. Like I said, they are the only ticketing people that we use. They are incredibly accessible, and for every event that I've ever done, their efficiency in putting tickets together for my sporting events, for our banquets, for everything. So we keep them on speed dial. So shout out to my people at Hometown. I literally do. They are on speed dial on my phone. So only people that we use. Shout out to Hometown.
Oh my gosh. Again, thank you for sharing that. I know there's a lot of great platforms out there, but I just hear again and again and again from ADs like you that are still active, still on the job, how great the Hometown platform is. So we appreciate you sharing that. One thing that we like to do with our interviews is we have new athletic directors, young athletic directors that listen to the podcast. And I think it's important for them to hear about how we all get involved with both our state association and with the
Yes,
national organization. So share a little bit about your journey. And again, you're a CAA, you're a registered middle school athletic administrator, you're a registered international school. That doesn't happen by accident. How did all of that happen, and how'd you get involved with the Illinois Association?
absolutely. So I'll start with the first go round that I was an athletic director at Legal Prep in 2014. The first thing I was ever told is to get involved with the Illinois Athletic Directors Association. And the next thing was the LTC courses. Like, I'll pause and say, I would never be where I am without those courses. I wouldn't be. I said this in my speech for athletic director here. I would just never be where I am right now. And if you're a young AD or just coming in the gate, like, there is nothing else that professionally develops athletic directors better than those courses. Like, I'm still taking courses to this day. I'm an LTC instructor. I was just joking with our state certification is that I think I might be after, because I have two more courses to take to get the certified international one. I think I will be the only person in Illinois that's held all four letters not named the CMAA. But I love learning about this stuff. And so from there, as soon as I came to Intrinsic, and even during the pandemic, I just started taking more courses. I spent that time in the pandemic, just as I was writing our handbooks and things like that. I just kept taking courses, and I had great ADs that helped mentor me. Even one of my PE teachers that became an AD, who's been in my life forever, he was just like, really, he's my mentor when it comes to taking my courses, and I just love learning as much as I can as through all aspects. And one of the things that I hear from different ADs that come from different areas, like they say that, well, maybe this course doesn't apply where I am in this urban setting, whatever. My process is that I think that a great AD will take the knowledge and the information from that course and say, how can I mold this into what I'm doing? My group of super friends of ADs are from all corners. They're from rural, they're from suburban. I pull from what are you doing that I can bleed and implement into what I have, right? So, yeah, so I'm constantly taking courses. Currently, I'm on the IIDA exec board. I just was appointed the state's IADA DEIB chair. So I'm working with the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And like I said, just the involvement and investment in professionally developing myself to make myself better, to educate my coaches, to make the kids we serve. I just made my assistant AD get her letters this summer and literally pay for her to go get her RIAA. I'm making my coaches this year all get NFHS, at least level 1 certified. And when they ask me, I'm already level 3. Like, I'm telling you, like, there's an excellence level to this, and I need you to be the most excellent coaches that you can be. In my conference, where I'm the vice president, my president and we were the only two until just now. Our third AD in our conference has their CAA. We budgeted, and I'm over professional development for my conference. We budgeted so that all our coaches or all our ADs are going to make sure at least start with their RAAs this year. It is that important. Like, when you have a group of ADs in your conference that has that education behind them to make their coaches better, it just uplifts. We're pouring into ourselves to really serve the kids that we have, that we coach, right? And I think that is our obligations and our missions and purposes as athletic directors. So there is no other place that you can find the professional development that you can through the NIAAA or your state's athletic director organization. You just won't find it. Or there's other resources that you can go to, because I will say this, and I'm not saying this because I'm on yours, Jake, I have every one of your books. If I don't have a hard copy of it, I have it on my Kindle and I have it on an Audible, because that's the things that you need to do. And people like yourself have done an amazing job of creating, like, I'm looking at all your versions of your toolboxes. Trust me, there's not a time I don't pull from those. So what I would say to a young AD, grab onto your professional organizations, your state ones, become involved with your national ones. You're listening to people like Jake Von Scherer. You're reading the things that he has, right? Because he's paved the way for people like myself. So, like, and again, if you're a great AD, you're always evolving and constantly learning. You have never reached a place that you belong, right? So even when you can go to the different schools that are partnered with, the IDA and the NIAAA to get in those, and that's why those classes are connected to that. So I'm telling you, soak up as much knowledge as you can, because even where I am, I'm still constantly growing. My assistant ADs and coaches are like, you don't stop reading, you don't stop learning. Yes, I need as many certifications behind me to make myself the best person that I can be for my kids. Like, like I said, I'm like you, Jake. I don't even know everything that I'm certified for anymore. I just know that I'm going to constantly keep getting what I need to serve who I am. Like, you know, uh, Mr. Kane, who does the mental performance coaching. As soon as he was at the state conference, I got that. Like, Play Like a Champion, where I teach the curriculum for coaching players. I've been working with them since 2016, and they're near and dear to my heart because I haven't seen anything as phenomenal as their character development program with Play Like a Champion. So we partner with them. My coaches go through that curriculum, and we partner with Notre Dame in that all the time. So I take my coaches to their conference so that I'm educating them. Like, I want them to know what made me who I am and have the tools that made me a great overall coach and athletic director to serve the kids. So it's just educating yourselves, really taking the time and being involved in these programs with your state's organization, and definitely the NIAAA, because it's an incredible, phenomenal fraternity to be in. Like, I love my coaching fraternity, but I can't tell you how much I love my AD super friends, which is what I called them in my speech for AD of the year. They literally are my AD super friends. So that is just an incredible fraternity to be in. So get involved and get all the resources that you can. So
Well, wow, great sharing there. And again, thank you for your kind words about the books. And again, for listeners, I'm just the guy who collected the tools. The tools. It's not like they're my tools. It's everybody that contributed to the books, like Orlandus today. We're going to give him a chance to contribute to our next toolbox book. Um, I've got to ask. You talked about all the professional development that you encourage and provide for your coaches and your program. It sounds like you and your school and your program are a great candidate for the QPA Quality Program Award. Have you thought about going through that process? Because just by completing the QPA for your school, you earn your CMAA. So that's another way to do that. Have you thought about that at all?
I have. I'm also, yeah, actually, there's good friends of mine. I'm close friends with Brian Mancuso. That's my guy.
Yep.
So he's actually we're best friends. So, Brian's every year he's like, OT, you might want to look at the QPA. You might want to look at it, go through it. Jen Doty, they're all like, OT, I know you're not sure if you're ready, but we think you are. So, but I know that is and I think when you go through that, you have to approach it whereas it's not to point out what you're not doing right. It's pointing out, like, what are the things you can do better. And I think that's where I had to misspell, because my thing was like, okay, we're only 4 or 5 years out the gate, right? And there's still so much that I'm still learning. So, but yes, to answer your question, Jake, it's something that I'm going to look to pursue, because it would be a good check for me to see where we are and what are the things that we're doing great. What are the things that are areas of growth for us? Because there are exemplar programs. And like I said, you always want to look at what are you constantly learning from? Because I won't say I have all the answers, but I know I have a lot of resources, right? And like you've accumulated a lot of resources and knowledge over the years. So I want to definitely get us to that place where I can look and say, this is let's be an exemplar program and show what's possible in a place like we are in Chicago, right? Like, that's my thing. And I hear so many places, well, we don't have this, we don't have this, or we can't do this. And I'm like, well, you have to just roll up the sleeves and put some grease on them and just go to work for your kids and continue to get the knowledge that you need so you can build what you really want to be for those kids. So the answer to that question in a long story short, yes, it is something that I will be talking to Brian and Jen and Rebecca and say, okay, here's OT's program. Here's Intrinsic downtown campus. Tell us where we are, what we need to do, what we need to get better at. What are some things we're doing great? So I think it's great to be evaluated, so you can see how can you know that you're getting to a place of excellence for the kids. Yeah.
And again, for our listeners and for you too, Orlandus, if you have your CAA and you've been thinking about that CMAA, Certified Master Athletic Administrator. Don't let that project be a roadblock to you. I know some people in the past, they've said they were intimidated by having to write the paper out. And that's certainly an option, but the new oral presentation, it's been around for a few years. I would strongly recommend it. And that was from somebody who was the vice chair of certification for about 8 or 9 years. Basically, you are already doing something at your school. Maybe it's with kids or coaches or parents or facilities. You're already doing something that would make a great CMAA project because it's important to you. So think about what you're passionate about at your school, and then think about, well, how would I tell this story? Because that's what the oral presentation is. You use a PowerPoint or other platform to share the story. It's about 30 minutes long, a couple people from certification on a Zoom call with you, and all of a sudden you're a CMAA. If you have more questions, every single state has a state coordinator for certification and for LTI. Reach out to them first. And if you have further questions, feel free to give me a holler. I still work with people frequently on putting together their CMAAs. Orlandus, this has just been so cool having you on. We're going to have to get you back for another segment down the road, but we're not done yet. We
Okay.
always wrap up with our athletic director toolbox segment. Now, you've certainly shown to our listeners, you know your way around the world of athletics, but we're going to take our final break, hear from Athletic Surveys, who sponsored this segment. And when we come back, I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job. But I'm only going to let you put 3 items in their toolbox. So let's hear from Athletic Surveys, and then we're going to find out what Orlandus Thomas is going to put into his new athletic director toolbox. We want to thank Athletic Surveys for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment of the podcast. You know, at my school, we use surveys for just about everything, for teachers, for kids, for coaches, and for parents. And the information that came back was almost always over the top positive, and it'll be the same for you. But you're also going to get a chance to hear from those squeaky wheels, whether it's a kid or a parent, and it'll give you a chance to address some small issues before they turn into big issues. But here's the thing, having that data, all those positive responses, it's incredibly valuable, especially when you're meeting with that frustrated parent or maybe your principal or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Make sure you mention the podcast, athleticsurveys.com.
All right, Jake. I will tell you, I've loved listening to the people you're shouting out. And I'm just going to say this because I know, Larry, you better be listening because you know we use athletic surveys for everything that we do. It was true game changer last year where when I met Larry, I told him the Google Forms that I used that had like 50 some questions that were all suggestive, saw him at a conference. We condensed that down and made it so much easier. And we're doing so much to show how to, and we use those surveys to give our coaches feedback as a part of their coaching evaluation. So it's one thing hearing from the AD, but to hear the kids' response and have it come from there to make the people that you're coaching to hear their feedback, that's game-changing data for coaches to have. So huge shout out to athletic surveys. Like we love them, we love them, we love them. Love Larry.
Well, again, thank you for sharing that. And again, the value of surveys, I don't think can be overstated. Reach out to, Orlandus is talking about Larry Ledgerwood. He's the founder, owner of Athletic Surveys. Go to their website, reach out to Larry. He's going to be at the national conference. So go by his booth. You're going to be amazed at, again, the value that those surveys are going to provide to you as a leader of your program. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting today with Orlandus Thomas. He's the director of athletics for Intrinsic Charter Schools. That's the downtown campus in Chicago. Tremendous background in athletics, but right now I'm going to challenge him to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but I'm only going to let him put 3 things in the toolbox. So, Orlandus, what 3 items are going to go into your new athletic director toolbox?
Okay. If I'm a brand new AD out the gate, the 3 things, I'm gonna keep it at 3, that I feel that an AD definitely needs. One, really establish your athletic handbook, like whatever your policy are on across the board, like eligibility, your code of conduct, your philosophy, your morals, your values. Like that becomes, if you don't have a solid handbook and policies of what you stand for, like you can't branch out and do anything else that you need. So really set the tone for your expectations and that are consistent across your program. So have a solid handbook and policies for your athletics program. Number 2, have an incredible coaching development program. Like now that you have the policies in place, how are you going to develop the people that you're going to put in front of the kids that you serve, right? Have structured programs that includes every form of professional development that you can for your coaches, whether it's sports related, whether it's character related, whether it's mentoring. Give your coaches the resources that they need to do to develop them. One of the biggest, I start every coaches meeting, seasonal coaches meeting, that I say that as coaches, you ask your kids, what have you done in the off season to get better? I tell my coaches, your kids have the right to ask you, what did you do as a coach in the off season to get better? Because I tell my coaches, if you ask your AD, that list is too long, because I know the things that I do to make myself better constantly. So establish resources to make coaches the best versions of themselves that align with the handbook that you created. The last thing that I would do, oh, this is hard, but that's okay. I got this. Establish an incredible communication tools and systems to communicate to coaches, to staff, to parents, to student athletes. Like everybody has to be on the same page. Everybody has to know what's going on, from the overarching development and direction of the program to the everyday little things like, you know what, this bus is going to get back to the school 10 minutes late, right? So communication, 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 communication. So if I'm a new AD, I'm starting with my, what I call my handbook, which is basically my Bible and my philosophy. I'm going to now, how do I develop the people that are going to execute my Bible? And then how am I going to communicate with all parties involved with it? I start with those 3.
Well, you probably saw me writing down notes. I love them all. The handbook. I mean, anybody listening knows how important it is to have that document, to know where you're going, to back yourself up. And so I love it when people mention it. It's not as sexy as some of the other tools that we hear a lot, but very important. And again, you've already talked about your passion for professional development for your coaches as well as for yourself. And communication, I think since the very beginning, we started the toolbox. It's always been one of our top 2 most frequently mentioned tools because it is so important. Orlandus, we should have done this earlier, so shame on me. But if one of our listeners wants to reach out and communicate with you, add you to their network, pick your brain a little bit about how you do things at Intrinsic. And listeners, I think you got a great resource here. How can they get in touch with Orlandus Thomas?
Oh my goodness, I'll give you all the resources. Obviously, the biggest one is email othomas@intrinsic.schools.org, OTHOMAS at Intrinsic Schools, INTRINSICSCHOOLS.org, othomas@intrinsic.schools.org. I can also be, you can text me, 708-932-4084. or 708-209-6622, either one of those. But if you email me, I got you. Trust me, I will reach out to you. Like, listen, my AD fraternity is huge for me. So if you say you need something, I will share, because I learned that the best ADs, they don't steal, they research incredibly well. So I've been very blessed and fortunate to have done a lot of research to get to where I am. So, and you need it from all aspects. So do not hesitate to reach out to me. And if I don't respond to you in a timely manner, it's okay. I understand you're involved in a sport or handling a parent that's bothering you. So I might be doing the same, but I will get to you, and I got you. So whatever resources I have, you have, because I want to provide us with whatever has been shared to me to get me where I am, so I can make young ADs better than me. Like, that's my biggest push. I want to make coaches better than me. I want to make ADs better than me. Told my assistant AD, I want to make you better than me. Learn from what I did and didn't do, so it's a little smoother path for you. So whatever resources I have, you have. So, and I would love to get that back from you, because I would love your perspective and see how can I mold it into what I'm doing so that we can best serve our kids that we mentor, we coach, we make better through education-based athletics.
Absolutely. And as you're reaching out, make plans to connect with Orlandus at the national conference down in Austin, Texas. It's going to be coming up very soon.
Yes, that part too. I will be there. So you'll find me somewhere around it, and I'll be hard to miss. I'll probably be the only Orlandus in the AD conference. So not a hard name, to miss. So if you see somebody that's taking a course or meeting with the DEIB people, or just trying to get to know who you are as an AD and figure out what you do, like, you will see me there. Just look for Orlandus Thomas or Coach OT. So thank Jake, man, thank you so much. Like, I just can't thank you enough for having a platform like this for ADs. And I'm going to plug you, because he's plugged everybody. Now I'm going to plug every one of those books that he has, because they are literally sitting on my nightstand or in my Kindle or in my Audible. And I'm telling you, my wife will tell you, before I go to bed, I'm pulling something out of there to put to my toolbox. So I gave you my three, but I'm telling you, you need all of those editions of every book that Jake has written, because he's one of my resources. And we just added him to the AD Hall of Justice for this AD Super Friends. So
I
just telling
love
you
it. I
that right
love it.
now.
Okay. Now, do I get a cape? Can I wear that now? Okay.
Whatever your superpower is. So I'm just saying, like, you are definitely in the AD Super Friends, but I'm serious. Add him to your resources, young or a seasoned, either one. Add Jake's collection to your resources. So just thank you so much. And this has been a privilege and an honor to learn from one of the best that's done it. So hopefully in my last 15, 20 years that I have left of this, I want to have a legacy that you've left across the people that you've touched, sir. And that's just much respect and love.
Well, again, thank you very much. Thank you for sharing all your wisdom with our listeners today. And I'll definitely let's make plans to connect down in Austin. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, for our listeners, we appreciate you as well. Thanks for listening. And just a reminder, we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. Um, we try to do this just about every day, share stories and best practices. So come back again and join us for the next edition of the Educational AD Podcast. Thanks again.